You're listening to The Angry Designer, where we cut through the industry bull to help frustrated graphic designers survive and thrive.
Why do I always want to sing every time we start this?
Everything.
The singing designers.
The singing designers.
Cheers, my friend.
Back at it with the Jack.
Back at Jack's. So again, yeah, I only snuck a little one of these
I noticed
last
that.
night. I know.
What's
I'm
up with
trying.
that?
I'm trying to be good.
Dude, and I'm not saying, I'm not judging you or anything like that.
No, feel
But
free to judge.
Usually,
I judge you all the time. So.
we start a bottle and then I never see it again.
I know. Usually, I have a sip here, a sip there.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, it's so nice at the end of the day to have a glass.
It totally is.
Oh, it totally is.
Do you do
right?
that every night? Generally?
It depends
Kids
how much
are
I
gone
had
to
the
bed?
night before. If I feel a little raw, maybe not. Maybe I'll pass. But.
Speaking of, we had an emergency podcast on Saturday or that was our time to that was the only time that we had because
Yes,
it was
we did.
a fucked up
We
busy
made it
week.
work. Yep.
And we started at 3.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but I
Did you just keep going?
I continued on when I got
You're a machine.
Did you stop?
I did.
No.
I did. I actually, only because I had all the kids that were screaming for my attention. It was like kind of a pretty crazy night. So,
Okay.
so I had to. I mean, geez, otherwise, I probably should, though. Probably make my night more entertaining with those kids. That's for sure. Make me more fun, Dad.
Yeah. What did they say?
Why is Dad stumbling all over the place? He's got a funny dance. They don't actually sound like that. They'd be like, Dad,
Yeah.
are you drunk again?
God, whatever. Old man.
Yeah, right. That's pretty much them.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, wait. We did.
We did. Yeah,
All right.
I believe this is our
Oh,
second sip.
damn, this smells so good.
And it's just as tasty. It's almost fruity, isn't it? Or is it just me?
I'm just shocked.
What is that?
How have I stopped with Jack's? Because it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, all things said and done, everything we drank, I'm actually kind of,
I'm thoroughly impressed with this.
thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, this was a really good choice. And, if you're interested in co-branding and things like that, and like we listened to our last podcast
Where we talked about Jack's.
about maximalism, which was awesome.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I thought that was pretty
that
kind
was
of fun
awesome.
and jazzed it all together.
Very inspirational too. Yes,
And I mean, we had somebody write in saying that, they thought maybe this wasn't overly maximal. And I mean, I will have to admit, I think we didn't say that this 100% was a maximalist design.
No.
However,
Yeah.
we did say that there were so many elements in here, it leaned more one way than the other.
Yes, it
the shapes, the textures, the different brands, the different fonts. So, but needless to say, it still fucking rocks.
it's pretty good. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean, again, there's a lot on there.
Oh, totally. There's a lot going on. Yes, maybe it's on the low end of the maximalism scale.
Yeah.
But still, it's comparatively to what Jack Daniels' label looks like normally.
Right.
This thing is
Absolutely.
off
right?
the charts, Kemosabe.
I feel like giddy tonight. I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
What is wrong?
Just excited.
So I got some interesting news from one of our clients today.
Hold on.
Whoa.
Your shirt game is on point once again.
I have invested in
Damn,
some
dude.
more black t-shirts with fun. Look at this guy, okay? I don't see anything on my chest. Nope,
Ghost.
I don't see anything.
There we go.
Right? But on the front, I don't see a ghost. It's nothing. It's slimming.
Yeah, it's
because I have a ghost on the front of my shirt.
Yes,
it makes so much more disappear.
Oh, if only that were true.
Yeah. Jeez, right? Make a fortune with those shirts.
I wear ghosts all the time. But anyway, yes, very nice shirt.
Yes,
Nice
yes,
shirt.
yes. So I got an interesting email.
Yes.
A couple days ago from our largest client.
Yes.
And about their top performing post for last year, right? And so far, the top performing post this year included an infographic that you made again, Monsieur.
I did not.
I think it was.
No. That was PJ. That was
No
PJ
way.
that put that together. Yes.
Really? wow, well, good on that guy.
Yeah, I know. He did great.
Right?
Yes.
Like, good on him. It's just, okay, well, good on you for being,
Yeah, I could have took all the credit for that. DJ be at home listening going, that fucking guy.
It's amazing. No. But you're, I mean, because you're always stuck doing them. I just assumed. But that boy, he does so many as well.
He's done a bunch.
But it's interesting because I mean, there's so many. Like for a little while, infographics were all the rage. Then they disappeared.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
In the like the B2C space.
Right.
But it just seems like the whole B2B world has picked them up and is just running with it.
Yes, totally.
Right. Like they're saying huge. Out of all. So this is kind of flattering because again, out of all their social media efforts, marketing efforts, posts last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Our infographic was the top performing piece of work that they had for this $1 billion company.
Yes.
Like how fucking cool is that?
That is absolutely great. But I got to point out that was one of the most, and we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
I don't want to blow your storyline here, but the speaking of the story with that particular project was absolutely amazing. It was all about the 4 generations in the workplace.
Yeah.
And it had
I remember that one.
Yes. It was, the story was very well laid out.
And we do that with all of our infographics. Like, I mean, again, it's I don't want to say that we're turning into an infographic shop, but man, there's at least one a week coming through here.
There is a lot, yes. And some stories are better than others.
Of course, absolutely.
I will point that out.
And again, there's a whole reason behind a lot of these and the content behind them and everything else. But it's like I'm seeing this resurgence. Yes. And it's because, I mean, there's so much shit that's going on there right now that it just seems like it's a nice, easy break and a great way to consume content.
Yes, big time.
Right?
Yes.
And again, it was, like I said, what was once overdone and everybody was just like, oh God, that's so tacky now. I mean, I'm seeing this come back. I mean, there's like 25, 30, 40,000 searches with different terms of infographics on there, right? I think the term itself gets like 100,000 views a month.
Wow.
Like people are actually looking for this information because the shit works. And so I figured that's, because we're doing so many of them, and they might not be the sexiest project that people always want, but they really should be.
Yes.
Because there's so much creativity that can go into these. There's so much awesomeness that can go into this other than just the everyday, other materials that we do. So
this is true. And plus, along with the interactive element that we do with Zeros, which could be a key to its resurgence.
Absolutely.
Maybe because there is a little bit more of an element of, I can kind of see what's going on here. There's a little bit of motion,
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Okay. Well, let's just start.
Yeah,
In case anybody's been living under a rock, a graphic design rock. So an infographic is basically a visual representation of information, right? Yes. Picture this giant story that's got all these stats and detailed info and complexity. Basically, an infographic simplifies that story by putting it, in number one, a visual, and everything is represented in there. So everything you see has got some sort of, it turns something complex, like a complex story, into something very easy to understand and a really understandable, easy to follow format.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing, right? It combines text, it combines visuals, stats, design elements to deliver that information to you. So you don't actually have to read it like in an article.
Yeah.
You're consuming it in almost like a poster fashion.
Yeah.
Right? Which again, that's totally,
bites.
and I mean, again, I think that's why they're so popular lately.
Yes.
Because, ultimately, they make complex, boring stuff fun, easy to read, easy to ingest,
yes.
right? Like, think about it. Like, some of this stuff, like it's, the different types of personality that does this, or, the hierarchy at an organization. These are like boring things, and I don't really care about reading an article about
That's exactly it. When you read this stuff, you're asleep in a minute.
But if you're able to put this, into this awesome format, and do it right,
yes.
You'll consume that information really quick, and you'll remember it.
Yes.
And you will find the information you're looking for really quick. So granted, if I'm a copywriter and I spend a lot of time writing a big article, well, it sucks because somebody just is like, give me the Coles Notes version of it. But as someone like on this side of the table who has to get this information, holy cheese, dude! Like this just makes everything so much easier.
I know exactly, and that's the thing is like we put these together, and a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Holy shit, dude!
And this, and sometimes some of these briefs are 1,000 words plus.
Well,
So-
fair enough. But and the topics that we are creating these infographics, they are so complex.
They are.
Right? That if you were to try to do it in an article, you would have a very small percentage of people being able to understand them, right? You would have engineers understanding them. But because we're taking these topics and then making them visual and putting a story in place and everything, all of a sudden you're getting, not only engineers, but you're getting marketers, you're getting salespeople.
Yes.
Everybody's understanding because it's taking, the bigger picture and chunking it down into an easy to digest format, right?
Beautiful.
And that's why these things work.
Yes.
And you're right. Now, because of how far graphics have come, the web's come, videos come, there's so many more ways to amp these things up, right?
Big time.
Because a few years ago, it was the same thing. It was just a flat
It was
illustration.
yeah.
Right. And that's it. But I mean, now it's like, well, and you'd always, you'd provide them in an email or on a blog or you'd put it out there and people would be like, yeah, I want to learn more. And they would come to your landing page, give you your information, so it was a good way to bring people in. It was great for inbound traffic. But now, I mean, we can make these interactive, even as just something as simple as a PDF. Everybody who's listening to the show has the ability to make an interactive PDF, even if it's just links linking on the page. So your PDF is a little bit more interactive. Click to the second, click to the third, right? You can link out to an email. You can play a video in there. You can go pretty far with a PDF,
you can
right?
do a lot.
But at the same time, so, we're using Ceros, which is a little bit more of a next level up, a little bit more animated, but still very simple and easy to post. Great for web. But, you could even, use infographics as like short form videos now, right? Because you can actually take it. Short form videos, great for this. You can post this in LinkedIn. You can post these short form. But again, the same idea, right? You're taking this content and you're basically piecing it all together. So people are, so there's so much more possibilities.
Yes.
And again, granted, we are in the B2B space, right? But I mean, this transfer is just as easy to B2C space.
Big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's these are wonderful things. There are a lot of crappy ones out there.
Oh, dude.
So
I will talk about those.
I was just
I
gonna
got
say,
issues with those.
Some people don't really have a grasp on how to work it.
So So before we get into how bad some of these can actually get and how much I hate some of these ones, stats.
Yes.
Okay, I got some incredible stats.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
so if anybody can even question or be like, oh, they're so passé, they're so 2018 or pre-vid, right?
Pre-vid.
PV versus
Pre-vid. I love
right.
it.
But okay, so content posts that include, images and graphics have up to a 650% higher engagement than those that do not. Okay.
Wow.
Infographics are 30 times more likely to be read than an article. Surprise, surprise,
yeah,
right? Because you can skim it and
Bite
understand
size.
everything,
Yep.
right? The drive to reading increases by 80% when an infographic is included in an article. Okay, so now it's like you've got your article, throw this in there, all of a sudden people want to read a little bit more. And think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're getting the high level information from the infographic, and
Yep.
now you're like, shit, I want to learn more.
I want to get in deep. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then
That's
infographics are considered the second most valuable visual content at 36.6 next to
real?
video. So
Next
next
to
to video,
video.
right? So, I mean, there's no reason why anybody shouldn't be including this, in their marketing plan. There's no reason that we shouldn't be pitching this to our customers, no matter who the customer is. Because again, infographics work.
Yep.
And if done properly, they're fucking effective.
Yeah,
And
big
if you
time.
can create something that's effective and gets a customer result, dude, you're gold. Like we always stress about trying and striving for that, the expert status. Well, this is like a secret gem that people are underutilizing,
Yes,
honestly. Because I mean, I
serious.
can't believe how many more we're seeing come through this place.
Second to video.
Second to video,
That's
dude.
outstanding.
Yeah,
that
it is
a
pretty
crazy,
crazy, right? It
crazy.
is.
Yeah, like I never would have guessed that would be even close. I thought I knew it would be up there, but wow, that's
It's huge, right?
that's big time. Yeah.
The problem is, unfortunately, like you said, is people just don't know how to fucking make them. Plain and
right.
simple.
That's right.
Right. And I blame so much to that. Like so much, right?
Yeah.
Like number one, that really pisses me off. And this goes back to the whole fucking Fiverr thing and all this shit, right? Is there's so many fucking templates out there, right? And I hate it. Like you go out there, even though I was going on about how to make infographics online, checking the stats, seeing how interested people are in this, right? There's also how to make it on Canva, free templates, vector templates for infographics. Like this shit's everywhere. So what they're trying to do, obviously, is people are taking templates that exist and trying to shoehorn information into it, which goes against everything that you're supposed to fucking do with an infographic. So of course, that shit doesn't work, and nor should it.
No.
Damn, you get yourself right. They use the wrong style of infograph, for the message. Because again, a good infographic is catered not only to the content, but the audience. Okay.
Yes.
And we'll
Yes.
get into detail about this a little bit more after, right? But again, they're using the wrong style for the audience and the messaging. They don't accompany it with additional material thereafter. Okay. So you've created your infographic. So what?
So, yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to put that shit out there. You've got it. Now you got to put it on a page. You've got to give it an intro.
Yep.
You've got to give it some social elements to tie things back. Like it's just like everything else. It's part of your whole marketing campaign. So just don't think you build it and then your job's done, right? You've got to find the accompanying material to pull people into this, right? And then of course, last but not least, they jam way the fuck too much information on here. Okay, there's an art to this. Okay, and a good infographic, right? Takes people through a story.
Yes.
But what we're seeing, unfortunately, is these things, they have so much content in them, they're just turning into a big clusterfuck of just shit. So of course people don't like this, right? It's like, and it's just like, duh. Like a good infographic, like we always, like you said, even the other one, the one that, outdid everybody else's last year for a customer, it told a really good story.
It did, yes.
Right? Yeah. And storytelling is probably the most important thing that, I think obviously for an infographic, but in general with what we do, and especially if it's a maximalist type design,
Big time.
but even if not, a web page, marketing material, it has to tell a story.
Yeah.
Right? And the good ones tell the story. And I mean, this is just the way your mind processes shit. Okay.
Yes,
So if you want to get really scientific, right, your mind is constantly seeking to connect the dots on things. Okay. It's trying to take all these individual pieces and connect them into a story because it's easier to remember.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay. That's science.
Yeah.
Okay.
Science, bitch.
Again, it's love science. So it's like, think of it this way. If I was to say to you, Sean, remember this. Glasses, explosion, phone booth, flying, walking, briefcase, cape, man, you'd be like, I can't remember that shit because I don't even know what the hell all that is all about, right?
It's just a bunch of words.
But then if I all of a sudden switched that up and was like, okay, there's a man walking down the street holding a briefcase. He sees an explosion, takes off his glasses, jumps into a phone booth, comes out with a cape, Superman. All of a sudden, but you remember all that.
That sounds much better.
Because your mind is putting them in some sort of logical order,
Yes,
right? So that's the key with a lot of these infographics that unfortunately, when people just fucking grab a template and they just slap it together and be like, here you go, Mr. Customer. Well, those don't perform because they don't work. They don't help with what the customer needs in that sense. So I think that's the biggest problem, right? This is where I'm going on about this whole just giant clusterfuck of information.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I did one for our major client and I had a meet with them the other day and they were confused as to the way the story was going. And it was like the brief that they gave me was like a horizontal, wide timeline kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I built it going down.
And they got confused?
And they were confused by it. Yes. So
interesting.
It worked, but it wasn't what they were expecting, right? So now I think I'm going to have to make it a bit wider and kind of flow a little bit.
Yeah. How come you can't pitch it wide? What? Well,
this is the thing. And this is
where are they posting it? Because it could be kind of interesting if it was sideways scrolling.
This is what I was thinking. It was just kind of like we were talking about this, kind of hashing it out, seeing how we're going to make this work. And it was like, where are the rules saying that I have to have a
It has to be
A
vertical.
long, skinny, vertical.
Because we're using zeros,
Yeah.
it could be a sideways scroll, dude.
And
That'd
this
be
is
awesome.
and this is what we came up with. And it's like, okay, this is going to be
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
cool, right?
We
So,
can get
yeah.
away with that because of the software we're using.
That's right.
Maybe some others they can't because it would take the image and shrink it down in a browser, and that would suck.
Yes.
But
In this instance,
sideways scroll, that could be kind of
yeah.
cool.
So
Actually,
we're just kind of like, okay, this is good. It tells a story, but it's just in a different kind of direction.
yeah. I do like that.
Yes.
That's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you know what? No, that's just good, dude.
Busy.
Just
It was,
good.
Yeah, it was really busy. I think that was the point of it. It just wasn't working. The story was there, but it was just it was too tight in the format
In
that
the
it was.
format going tall, right?
Yes.
Where no.
Yes. So we
Keep that
can
up, man.
we can totally riff on these kind of things. So there's no real format for
Yeah.
them either. Typically, right?
No.
Just the typical ones that we
Everybody
see.
is always used to seeing an infographic vertically,
Yes,
but that's
I
only
guess that would
because
work.
of the limitations that we've had.
Right,
But think about it.
right.
We don't have to do that. If
Yes.
this is zeros,
Yeah.
we can go sideways. You can break it up. You could even almost make it clickable and make it interactive.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun too,
Yeah,
right? Like
totally.
click this, click next, and do this. We
Yep.
absolutely can get to that level.
Yeah.
And as we should, because this shit is working,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of advantages to using an infographic, right? And
time.
creating it for customers. It, like, again, simplifies complex information. That's the biggest thing, right? It condenses all this complex data and these concepts into something that's visual, that's very simple, right? And it makes it easy for people to understand,
Yes.
right? They're fun to look at. They can be kind of, as long as you're building it towards the audience, right?
Yes.
They could cater to that audience and be very, what's the word? They understand it, relatable, right?
Yeah. Nice.
And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. I do get this.
Yeah.
Because again, right? And then you can use the colors and fonts because you can have fun with these things,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So again, to the right audience, it will just it'll totally resonate with them, right?
Big time. Big time.
Again, I can't stress that it has, the engagement on them is not only high,
Mm-hmm.
but then it has repeated engagement because people share these things. They save them, they share them, they use them in presentations because they're so effective.
Yeah.
Okay. So your engagement goes higher and higher and higher in these things, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you just said, it supports the storytelling.
Yeah.
Better than any other medium, I think, other than video in that case, right? Video and audio, fine, right?
Yeah, they're the kings for sure.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, an infographic does that in just a pure analog visual form.
Yes.
Right? So it
Yes.
does what a video and audio do, but in, a designed format.
Yeah.
And of course, improved comprehension. Most importantly, right?
Makes you think about
It makes you think because there's a couple things that are happening here, right? You can, number one, you're taking something complex and simplifying it.
Yep.
You are now combining images and text, okay, which is huge because then that increases your comprehension
Yep.
and it increases your recollection of it. So
Yes.
you'll not only understand it, but you'll remember it because there's now, it's dealing with both. I mean, if it's a thing, it's dealing with both sides of the brain.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's so many advantages to doing an infographic. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so what I did do is I did break down the different types
Okay.
of infographics. And, I think we took this for granted because we would just naturally lean towards, oh yeah, this is the market. These are the people. So yeah, it should be like this. It should be like this, but there's actually different types. So I broke these down so it makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So the different types of infographics. Number one, there's statistical infographics.
Yes.
Okay. So these present data, stats, they use charts, they use graphs. This is the kind of a lot of that canned shit you see online, unfortunately, right? And it's just like, oh, look at me. I'm Mr. Business. I'm very important. Here are all my stats.
Stats.
Yeah, stats. So, needless to say, though, there is a time and place for these. Not here, but there is. Okay. Like you were talking about before, there are timeline infographics,
Right.
okay? These display chronological order of events, good for like historical stuff, good for project timelines.
Yep.
I hate Gantt charts, but there's a reason why they work, right? They
True
do.
enough.
So again, timeline infographics, there's a time and place for it depending on what it is, whether it's the evolution of a company,
Yeah.
which we've done in the past for many companies,
Yes.
right? Whether it's evolution of an idea, a product, civilization. Everybody's very familiar with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's process infographics. Okay. These explain step-by-step procedures or actions. So again, think about the user guides that we create for our customers.
Yes.
Right? They are almost more infographic than they are a user guide because we actually take all the devices, all the items, we connect them into a story and people are following this along, right? As opposed to just looking through a user manual. How huge that is. It makes it so much easier for people to understand because they're looking at their phone, they're looking at the guide, and it's like, oh shit.
Oh, there
it's
it is.
The same.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So process infographics, they use arrows, icons, like display screens, but basically it's like a how-to. Okay. Very important, right?
Yep.
Comparison infographics, right? You don't realize this, but how many times is there A versus B, right? So these highlight similarities and differences between objects, services, products, companies, right? They use, like I said, it's just oftentimes it's just this left versus right.
Yes.
Kind of, and you don't have to overthink those because that's what people are looking for comparison infographics.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hierarchical infographics. This one's a little tricky, but this illustrates hierarchical structures in organizations, and this doesn't have to necessarily be a company, but it could be like, a non-for-profit. It could be like a building. It could be like how things work, but, they show relationship, categorizing, different levels, within a system. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be people. It could be in a network. Hierarchical, infographic of a network and network devices all the way from, the data center all the way to the consumer's house. So there is another way. It's not just businesses and people, right? Geographic infographics.
Nice.
Okay. So these focus on data that's related to specific locations and regions. It could be a giant map. It could be a city. It could be anything from, the population in the city, the demographic of a city or anything like that. And then last but not least in our list, and there might be more, but, kind of from what I've been able to kind of diagnose here, informational infographics. And this is a lot of, again, versatile, cover a wide range of topics, right? These are the ones that combine text and visuals and stats and design elements, and sometimes you can have fun with these because they explain, explain like trivia, or they throw some trivia in there, right? And they explain concepts in a way that they almost trick you to want to, double check that you actually got that right? But again, these are more informative. Okay. So I think everything that I've seen that come through this place usually falls somewhere in this. In this range.
There's a number of combinations of the two that we'll do hierarchical ones with a lot of information, like there's a combination of
and it can be, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is there is different types and I guess where we're going here, right? Or where I'm going with this is there's different types or styles of infographics based on the need that you have. Customer. And again, while you can absolutely merge some elements of them, you got to think of what, the purposes and, how to execute this best, right? Because every one of these, they work differently and some of them, excel in some ways versus others. Right. So you got to just think them through. I think while you're going through this.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where we're going with this. It's more than just slapping stats on a template, slapping some things together and just kind of putting it out. That shit doesn't work.
This is exactly it. And if you know the direction that you're going, if you can kind of figure out, you can analyze what it is your information is and see which one of these categories that will help you along the way.
Well, it really would, right?
Totally.
When you're creating this, it would.
Yes, when you know where you're going. Oh, okay, I got a hierarchical one here. This makes more sense. As opposed, I was trying with the timeline and I was fucking with it. It wasn't working.
It wasn't working. Well, shit, right? I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, a lot of times I think the biggest mistakes that we're seeing over and over and over. Mistake number one is refusing a little bit more checks. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It is really good, right?
This is
Oh, that's it for that bottle.
Okay, well, that's fine.
All right. Most common mistakes that, we see constantly with infographics, or what people are doing when they're creating infographics. And we are constantly adjusting and tweaking to some of the other people because it's an art form.
Yes.
Right.
Yep,
and again, the better you get at all the elements of the art form, right, the better the final product is.
Yes.
And I am seeing an improvement, in PJ and some of the team when they're developing these things, right? Because we're like, listen, there's more of a story here. But it's really cool to see how everybody's improving.
I know.
But I mean, okay,
Great.
the most common mistake, first and foremost, is when people use a fucking template. Okay, honestly,
I don't even understand
How?
for 1 minute how that would even work.
well, only because more times than it's just like when people use a template for a website. You're catering the content that you're
yeah.
putting in there based on the design first.
Square peg and round hole.
Right. It's just like, no. It doesn't work like
Yes,
that, right?
I
Like
get
you
it.
have to first know what information it is. Like when you're basically, if you're going to take a template, you're just going to be, I need a stat. Okay, find me a stat on this. Oh, look, it says a road over here. So find me some sort of road example for, and it's just, you're shoehorning all this
Yeah,
crap in place,
yeah.
and you end up with a really shitty infographic.
Yeah, and you worked way harder than you should have.
I think so, right? I think so. So number one, obviously, risk number, the biggest bullshit I see is when people try to use templates for their infographics.
Yeah.
You can
Bad.
source them for ideas.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Examples, yeah.
Hey, I'm all for that. But you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't try to use that as the basis of your infographic and shove your data in there, okay?
exactly.
Number two, you do risk oversimplifying the content. So sometimes it's very complex. What you're trying to do is very complex. And in order to try to simplify it in a way that everybody understands, you do risk that, you might be able to take too much out and it affects the people it's intended for.
Yes.
It might attract a bigger audience, but the people that it's actually intended for might find it a little too light.
Yes.
Okay. So you do have to be careful of oversimplifying the content. Number three, often you risk misrepresenting the information that's in there. If the infographic is too poorly designed, the information you're putting in there is going to be false. It's going to be weak. It's going to be like, you know what, dude? I see where you're going with this, but that's not quite right. You're oversimplifying, and this kind of goes back to that whole oversimplifying everything, right?
Yeah.
But you're misrepresenting the content that you're actually delivering in there, right?
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
two can go hand in hand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
On the flip side, if you leave too much shit in there, it can be difficult to understand.
Yes.
Okay. They could be over cluttered. They could have too much information, right? And unfortunately, well, that's shitty.
This is the beauty of this. Infographics it's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
It is,
Right?
it is.
This is the kind of stuff you don't want to overcomplicate
You
it.
don't want to overcomplicate, but we can't oversimplify either.
But we can't oversimplify it either. But I don't think if you've got a great story, then I think you can do this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
The story is key on this one, right?
Exactly.
Lack of context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah.
happens all the time. And
Yeah.
if they may be, they might not have enough supporting evidence or material. So it might just say something that somebody be like, oh, come on. That's bullshit, right? You absolutely have to support what you're saying. Make sure it's not just a single point. Make sure it's not just like a sentence, right? You got to make sure that there actually is context for what you're putting in there, right? Again, information overload. Too much information, which we see. This often overwhelms people, right? When you're seeing an infographic and it's just jammed with paragraphs and paragraphs.
That's it. I see that so much.
So much.
It's just a giant blog with a background.
Absolutely,
You know,
right?
and it's just like,
big mistake.
why?
The blog with the background.
Yeah,
I love that.
it really is long and boring. No visual elements at all.
Right. And again, that's not an
infographic,
infographic, right? This isn't a matter of having 1,000 words and intermix it with fancy icons and colors and shapes. And we've had people try to do that, okay? Not so good. I mean, again, if you put an excessive amount of content in there, it's just gonna make people back up and it's gonna have the reverse effect of what you want.
Yes.
Again, it has to be a perfect balance of enough information, but not overwhelming information, right?
Exactly.
And last but not least, and a lot of infographics, fall short of this. They don't provide credible sources for the data that's in there. So
bad.
unfortunately, it might suck because at the bottom of it or throughout, you may have to put an asterisk here,
Yep.
some information there, but you do
lot of
have
links.
to cite where some of this real data came from
Yep.
in order to add credibility to what it is that you're presenting, legitimacy
Yep.
to your idea, your thought, and what you're saying, right? Otherwise, it's like, what are you making it up?
Yeah, is this just pulling the shit out of the sky? No, a lot of it, and again, it's back to your point of if you've got you've cruised through through the infographic and you got the links. It's like, oh, I'm more interested in this statistic about 47% of
whatever.
of E-suite people are doing whatever. So you click on that and then you'll read the article, right?
Absolutely.
So it piques your interest to go to find out more about.
And again, if you're building this as a PDF,
Yeah.
you can link
You
this
can
shit
do that
out,
stuff.
right?
Exactly.
You can actually make this
And
more interactive.
We always do stuff like that. There's
Because again, people will keep these.
This is
right?
true.
They'll keep them then. They'll use them as a resource guide. Shit, dude, I have a folder on my desktop with like 50 or 60 different PDF infographics that I've kept because it's just like, oh, that's valuable. I'm going to
Yeah.
remember that.
Oh,
I'm going to
wow.
remember that, right? And again, it's just like, now, in all fairness, I only know about 5 of them. And every so often I'll open up like, oh yeah, that was a good one. Trash. Oh, that was a good one. Trash. But often I'll share it. I'll be like, oh, I got something
this
for
is
you.
good, yeah.
I will give it, and people are like, wow, where'd you find that? That was
yeah.
like, so, people do
that's
shit.
awesome.
Yeah. Right. And again, creative inspiration.
Yeah. Oh, this is true. Yeah. This is always
Yeah.
nice to have. And that's the thing is there's a lot of that I find that's missing, with out there. I'm looking for stuff that, just to see how people create their stories and make them flow. And it's just, there's not a lot of that out there.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
true.
lot of really bad stuff.
It's so true, dude.
Like even on Dribble.
Oh, I know.
is surprising.
Well, it is, but it's not. I love Dribble, but often Dribble is more portfolio pieces for no clients. People are creating shit that isn't real.
They're just making this stuff up.
They're making this stuff that looks good. I mean, half the logos, 2/3 of the logos, probably 90% of the logos on there aren't real logos.
They're not real logos.
It's like, oh, look what I can do with negative space. Look at this job. It's like, dude, that's fake.
Yeah, that is. So it's kind of sad to see, there's a lot of missed opportunities, golden opportunities. out there
Absolutely,
for
right?
this.
Again, honestly, infographics can be such a huge asset for a customer, for a designer, for anybody. Like it's a great tool to sell people. And again,
Yeah.
you're selling them
Yeah.
not only the creative part, but you can build it with the and I'm going to list this out, like
Yep.
the
Yeah,
good
you
process
always
to do
do.
this.
Yep.
But I mean, we're talking you're missing out on the build, you're missing out on the accompanying material, and we're not talking one social post. You could take this, you could take an infographic and make 10 social posts for this.
God, that
okay?
one, that hot one that our client
Yep,
loved,
yep.
that just had so many babies, man.
So exactly,
Like,
and they used
went
it like
on
2
forever.
weeks worth
Yes.
of posts, not in a row, but they used it.
They
for
kept going
3
back to that well.
months.
Yes. Yeah, which is great.
And this is why this is a huge. You could take this and sell this shit to
Big
somebody.
time,
No
big
matter
time.
if you're a freelancer, you're an agency. I mean, there's always a place
Yep.
where you can use an infographic. How would you do it if your customer was a Chinese food restaurant? I wonder. There's probably a way to do this. I challenge everybody to think of how to actually do an infographic for a Chinese food restaurant. I bet you it could be done.
Wow.
Seriously, I bet you think about the opportunities here, where the food comes, how it comes from, how it goes from.
It's history.
It's history.
What part of China this is from?
Like, think of how cool that would be, like something like that on the back of a menu or something, right? Like just something as silly as that, right?
that's great.
You could have fun
Yeah,
with this,
you
right?
really could.
You really could. So
Yeah.
now I'm not just trying to sell them the value on it. It's a different story, but nonetheless, there are some pretty, some pretty cool places that could, utilize them.
Yeah,
but this just where I'm going with this is there's a use almost anywhere for something like this.
Big time,
right?
yeah.
If somebody's trying to explain information, a complex idea, a thought, a process, there is an infographic
For
that
that.
could back this shit.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And only a graphic designer can do that.
This is true.
Right?
This is true.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my 9 steps on how to actually go about and do this. We go through this internally, right? And again, it's legit. So
Yep.
first and foremost, number one, you got to define the objective that this infographic is supposed to actually do, right? You got to, what is the purpose of this? Am I explaining, the origin of this Chinese food that I'm delivering? Am I explaining, how, the internet gets from a data center to somebody's home, right? You got to figure out first and foremost what that objective is and make sure it's clear as fucking day. It doesn't have to be, I'm not saying simplify a complex thought, but you need to understand what the objective is, okay? Number two, once you do that, you have to identify the target audience, right? Because it's that target audience is who you have to tailor the content of this for, right? You got to use their language. You got to find visuals that resonate with them, right? This is for somebody else. It's not for you. So you have to make sure you understand that audience, understand those personas, what they like, what they want, the kinds of images they want, and then you've got to cater this piece to them. Okay. Then number three, you got to determine the kind of infographic and flow that you're going to have for this. So we just gave you a list, is it process? Is it geographic? Is it informative? You got to figure out, now that you know what the objective is and you know what the audience is, now you got to figure out which one is the primary structure flow that you're going to follow. Okay. Number four, this is the time when you got to start gathering all that information now. Okay. So you got an objective. Okay. You got to gather your information and you got to collect the sources, keep the sources. So is it stats? Is it the flow? Is it, like the names of the products and how it actually works? You got to start gathering all this content information.
And do yourself a favor, read all those articles that come with that, all that reference material that is valuable to this process.
Absolutely it is, right?
Read that article. Don't just skim it, whatever. Look through it.
Exactly, right? Because again, you can be charging for all of this because it's part of research.
This is exactly
absolutely
it.
Right.
Totally.
So gather all the information you need to, gather all the sources, keep them with the information, and then start. Now you have all these pieces, to build this infographic. So then number five, okay, now you want to start organizing all this content into a story. Like I said, the mind seeks to put things in a logical order. So now it's your job to kind of think from beginning to end what that logical order is. Okay. And again, no matter how abstract it might seem at first, it's your job to come up with that story. Sometimes you may have to couch it in something that totally makes no sense. It might be abstract, but you're dropping in all these elements, right? It's the story. I can't stress enough how important that story is. All right. So number six, okay, create a wireframe.
This I love.
Okay, well, it's true, right? Create the damn wireframe. Do yourself a favor, okay? Create a wireframe with the content in place. We're not looking for design here, okay? You can have a very, very loose, very rough idea for design, but think of a wireframe as buckets of information. So now you've got all this content, you've got the type of infographic, right? You know who it's for, you've gathered all this information. Now and now you're trying to piece together the story. The wireframe will support that. Okay. So again, don't think creative. Think content flow.
Think flow. Yes. Flow. Exactly.
The buckets of information go here. At this point, I want to throw this out there. I want to throw that out there, right? Because again, this is all part of that story building. Once all those wires are in place, and once you've got that story in place because of the wires, that's when you go and you design and refine the damn thing. Okay. This is when, now, once you have a wireframe of content information, you can approach this 2, 3, 4, 10 different ways creatively.
Totally. Yeah.
As long as you follow the wireframe of content that you've laid out, it's always going to tell the right story. Okay. So whether the story is somebody walking through a park, somebody sledding down a hill, somebody, entering a nightclub and going to a rave at the end of the, I don't fucking know. But the reality is the content of it, the story is how you can easily catch an STD, everybody. Okay. So, but again, all those different ways you can, and you can approach it all those ways. Nightclub, park. Yes, of course.
I just got that. I was waiting for the
yeah, of course. Right?
Doctor's office, right at the bottom.
That's how you end. That's who this was for. The STD clinic. Number 8, right? Review, revise, and finalize, right? This is when you review the infographic with your customer. This is when you make, all the changes for accuracy, get the flow right? It's this stage, that kind of pulls it all together in the end.
Yep.
And then last but not least, create the adjoining marketing materials
here we go.
for this. This is when you're like, hey, okay, we've got the infographic. How about some social media posts for this?
Yep.
How about an e-newsletter for this? Let me create you a mailer for this. Let me put it in a sales sheet that references this. This is when you have to take your piece of art and just pimp it out everywhere. Figure it out. Figure out all the different ways you can get it in front of people.
That's right.
That's the most important part of this whole thing, right? Once you've created it, hate to say it, even if you create a crappy thing, if you put all this information, you create all this collateral, this adjoining material, you got all these eyeballs on the crappy infographic. It won't work, right? It won't work.
Yes, but it's going to drive traffic back to it, and it's going to keep the circle will repeat.
Absolutely,
and
right?
Bank will happen to you.
Bank will happen to you, right? Absolutely.
Bitch better have my money.
Yeah, right.
When you pimp this out.
When you pimp this out. So, I mean, again, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people.
Yeah.
And people are just underutilizing infographics. They're not pushing it enough, hard enough. They're not actually going out, to their customers and being like, look, I got an idea for you here.
Yeah.
Let's explain this better. Let's do this. Let's get this in front of people. I genuinely think because the success that we're seeing with our market, I think that there's more opportunities for this in other markets. Yeah.
Big time.
Right? People aren't using them enough. Plain and simple. They're just not using them enough.
This is true. And especially with, being second to video. I mean, this is right within our wheelhouse. I'm not proficient in the video element of things,
and the audio,
but I can do this shit, so I'm just as
you're killing it, dude.
Right
Think about it.
There.
You're a 36%er, buddy.
36%er.
Fuck yeah!
That makes me happy. But yeah, I mean, not in video. Video has a large expense, right?
Absolutely.
It takes a lot. There's sets and all kinds of elements going on with that. This is something that we should be doing and doing well and doing a lot of.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you know what people miss most when it comes to these? And this is like the most glaring faux pas of the entire piece, right? I mean, I get it. They don't have to be branded like a company. Like if you're creating something for Pepsi, it doesn't have to look like Pepsi. It doesn't have to.
Yes.
But the thing is, there has to be, in the objective, when you're starting this, there has to be a call to action for Pepsi.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
again, this comes into the whole identify the objective. You've got to think, what is this for? Where do I want them to go?
Yeah.
People always miss out on a fucking call to action.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, do you want me to go to a website? Do you want me to visit? Like this, hello, this is critical.
Yeah, I'm at the bottom. I'm at the end. Tell me what to do.
Right?
Where am I going from here?
Jeez.
Yeah, that's and most of our stories do have that they have a brilliant. Our main client has a great thought process when it comes to how they direct everybody to where they want
which
them
page
to go.
and what to do. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely,
So,
it's a formula, dude.
It totally is. It totally is, and they do that very well. So. That part is quite easy for us. I must admit.
I think so.
But yeah.
Very critical.
Yeah, totally. Huge. There is a lot of stuff that we're just like, I'm done with this infographic. I don't know where I'm going from here.
Jeez, so true.
That's so
true.
bad.
Well, and again, those are the ones that fail.
Those are the ones that fail. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Honestly, I think infographics are a goldmine.
Totally.
For any graphic design, freelancer, studio, right?
Yep.
Somebody wants an idea, right? You can easily show people the advantages of creating an infographic. I mean, again, we've got stats here.
Yeah.
Okay. There are great stats here on, the advantages. Take them to your customers, figure out what to do.
And this dovetails out to other things like
Holy
the social
crap,
posts, like you said too, which is another revenue stream for you. You know what I mean? So this is a moneymaker.
It's a gold mine. Get to it, people.
Do them right.
Do it right.
Do it right. I'm looking forward to your STD infographic.
It's just being finished right now. 40 different STDs and where you can catch them.
Statistically speaking.
Starts at the park.
Yeah,
you meet someone at the park. You suggest going to a rave. Again, the whole thing is planned out. Okay. It's all done. It's done.
Yeah, I love it. I love
all
it.
right.
Oh, that was good. That was
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it for this.
I think that was really good.
I think that we've talked enough. This is a different kind of episode.
This is a very different episode
because
for
we're
us.
kind of talking about a single item. So
Yes.
I hope people actually can appreciate this.
I think this is kind of one of those underrated, underutilized aspects of graphic design that
like a tool or what is it?
A
Deliverable.
A deliverable, yeah.
It doesn't sound as sexy, but it's
It
true.
doesn't. It doesn't.
It's
but
underutilized, and I think people need to bring this shit back.
Totally. It's
they
huge.
can help out the customer. They can make some good coin.
Yeah.
And again, it can grow out of just one infographic, right? You can build so many pieces of ongoing collateral, right?
time.
I can
Big
have
time.
fun with it.
Yeah,
Shit, one of them
exactly.
was like a game. We did a game board for somebody, right?
That's right.
And again, they loved it. They came back for a second and a third. Cheesy as fuck, but all right. I mean,
It
again,
worked.
it worked for them.
Yeah, it was great.
So, all right, cool.
Okay.
I just have a little information. We have confirmed our next guest. We've got a guest. I'm not going to say who it is, but we do have another guest coming, and this friend is coming to us from the UK.
Oh,
Everybody so far
died,
has
Mike.
been, somebody
sorry.
local to this side of the world. And and again, we've reached out to a lot of people.
Yes.
I need people to understand this, okay? Because, I had somebody say something and they sent me an email politely and they're just like, you know what? Hey, heads up, you're interviewing a lot of the same kind of people, but the reality is these are people that we've followed. We're not really an interview show, and maybe we'll do more interviews, of course, as the future goes on. But the reality is, these are people that we look up to, and we've kind of honed our business around, right? We're not an interview show. We're not a podcast interview every episode.
Nope.
So these are the people that have reached out to us, or B, have replied to us reaching out to them.
Exactly.
Okay, so that I need everybody to understand that, because again, we're not segregating anybody. We're not, I don't know graphic designers in other countries of the world, but on a good note, I am starting to learn about them because of this email. Somebody reached out, and they genuinely reached out, from the good of their hearts, and I am now researching other people. It's going to be a different kind of reach out, of course.
Yep.
But just understand so far, everybody that we've had on the show, people that we follow, that we're interested in, and have replied back.
Yeah.
Because we've reached out to a hell of a lot more people
I was just gonna
that have
say,
been on.
there's-
And unfortunately, some of them just don't want to be on this show.
There's a lot of ghosting going on. Yes. So
A little bit of ghosting, little bit of ghosting. But needless to say, we've got somebody awesome that, fits our fucking persona, fits our vibe, and I'm extremely excited to interview him.
I can't wait.
I know, it's going to be
gonna
fucking awesome,
Yeah,
right? It's
this
going to
is
be
really,
awesome.
really good.
But with that being said, back to what we're doing today, by all means, go through this. If you have any questions, if you have any other comments about the infographics, hit us up.
Yep.
Right? You can find us on Instagram.
Yep.
We're also on YouTube, and we are starting to press a little bit more on YouTube as well because, it allows us to show some visuals and images. So by all means, don't be scared to visit YouTube, even if you've listened to the podcast. And
We're
kind of
so
skim
handsome,
through.
so we translate well on YouTube, right?
That's
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah. But, again, at the same time, where to find us. And you can always hit us up on our website, and you can definitely hit us up, for questions and everything. Even on our Instagram, I get a lot of messages.
Yeah.
And it's great having these conversations. We're glad that we can help anybody, whether they're starting, whether it's just somebody who's halfway through their career or at the tail end of their career, just wondering how much longer they can, hang through, and they just need some support. That's what we're here for, and that's what this show is here for. So,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, everybody.
Infographics.
Infographics. I'm going to give you an infographic on how to say goodbye. Ready? My name's Massimo.
And my name is Sean.
Stay creative.
And statistically, stay angry.
36% of graphic designers who stay angry are more successful till the end of their career. Peace.